And lawmakers on Capitol Hill have less than a month to prevent a government shutdown. Speaker Mike Johnson postponed a vote yesterday on a temporary spending bill that would keep federal agencies and programs funded for 6 months. Democrats are almost certain to reject the inclusion of the SAVE Act, which would require proof of U.S. citizenship to vote. A number of Republican lawmakers have also said they oppose the measure. ABC's Jay O'Brien is on Capitol Hill with the latest. Jay, what is going on with this vote? When is it expected to happen? Is it expected to pass? Walk us through this.
Nobody really knows, Diane, when this could even be brought up for a vote because Mike Johnson, as you said, has pulled his recent plan because he just doesn't have the votes for it. As you said, there are Democrats who say they're not going to vote for the SAVE Act. They think it's a solution in want of a problem. There isn't widespread non-citizen voting, and there are already safeguards in place, Democrats say, to prevent that. Meantime, on Johnson's right flank, there are further right Republicans who say they don't want to vote for any temporary kind of government funding measure because they say that's not the way the government should be funded. So Mike Johnson is at an impasse. He's between really a rock and a hard place, and the House is in this holding pattern while Johnson decides, does he want to try to work on Republicans on his right flank and maybe try to make them more likely to vote for a temporary government funding measure that has that non-citizen voting provision in it? That looks unlikely. Those spending hawks are likely to stay. Or does he take out the non-citizen voting and try to do some kind of a deal with Democrats? That's politically more likely, but it involves Mike Johnson making a serious concession.
Now, does that all come down to the election in a couple of months? Is that timing critical here for what they want to do?
Well, Mike Johnson has always wanted to put in some kind of conservative red meat into these government funding negotiations, and so far it's been unsuccessful. Think back to the last, impending government shutdown that we almost had that was narrowly avoided, and it was over immigration, right? Mike Johnson wanted to put in that hardline border security provision into that temporary government funding legislation, and that didn't succeed. And that's what he's essentially trying to do here with this non-citizen voting provision. And Chuck Schumer has said, essentially warning Mike Johnson that he doesn't want to turn this into some kind of a Groundhog Day scenario and repeat what Schumer says are Johnson's mistakes of the past. But you're exactly right. The reason why Johnson is looking so sternly at this non-citizen voting is A, he believes it's something that is necessary to pass before the election, but B, it's a serious conservative priority that he wants to be able to point Republican voters to and say, look what we are working on, look what we're trying to get done, while we're also trying to keep the lights on in the federal government.
And a government shutdown affects hundreds of thousands of people on federal payroll, as well as aspects of the economy. So how much pressure are lawmakers under to get this passed and find a resolution here?
They're under significant pressure. They only have about 3 weeks to pull this off, and that is a very limited period of time when you talk about Congress, because Congress takes a lot of breaks, too. For instance, the House is flying out today. The House is not going to vote come this afternoon, and they don't come back until next week. They're not going to work tomorrow, Friday. They're going to work on maybe the negotiations trying to get the votes they need, but they're not going to vote on any legislation on Friday. And so 3 weeks, limited period of time, and don't forget that also it comes during this chaotic, tense election period that ratchets up the tensions in Congress. Sometimes it lights a fire under Congress to get this done quickly because nobody wants a government shutdown so close to an election and the possibility that either party could be blamed. But also it makes these negotiations more complicated because, again, this is a time where Democrats and Republicans are challenging each other, not just on the presidential election, but in various congressional races across the country.
All right, ABC's Jay O'Brien, thank you.